An entitled Karen steals my tablet while I'm in the bathroom, and I catch her red-handed using a tracking device leading right to her purse. I work at a car dealership as a receptionist, one of my duties being greeting customers when they enter. I am a professional artist on the side, and I've been busy with some commissions lately, so since it's not busy at a car dealership, I started working on my tablet. It's an older version, and I'm working on getting an upgrade, but I currently can't afford to do so I live with it despite the battery life being really short, and I have to basically keep it plugged in at all times, but it does the job. During my lunch break, I was in the waiting room area doing more work when a kid, a little girl no older than 4 years old, came up and watched me work. This happens a lot when I draw in public, and usually the kids just ask a lot of questions, but this little girl was very quiet and just looked on in amazement, so I just let her be. Her mother, the entitled crazy Karen in this story, was nearby at a salesman's desk working on purchasing a new car, which is a long and no doubt boring process. The salesman working with her walked away, which at my dealership they do every so often to retrieve paperwork, talk to the sales or finance managers, etc. She looks over at me and her kid and asks, "What are you looking at?" Her kid points at the screen and says, "She's painting puppies!" I was currently working on Twitch emotes of a streamer's dog. I sort of show my screen to the entitled Karen, and she then asks her kid if she wants to draw, which the girl excitedly said yes. I expected this entitled Karen to pull out a paper and pencils, or at least ask if I can get some for her too, but she just looked at me expectingly. When I realized she was waiting for me to hand her my tablet, I said, "Oh, she can't use mine, but I can get her a notepad and some pens," but apparently that wasn't good enough. This entitled Karen sighs and just says, "Just let her draw a little bit. I'm almost done here anyway," which I knew for a fact wasn't true. They were waiting on a bank approval for a loan, which can take anywhere between 5 to 30 minutes, and even then there's still so much more paperwork that she needs to do. I start to explain that this is part of my side work, and she just scoffs, saying I'm just doodling puppies, and that it was selfish that I wouldn't let her daughter doodle on my device. This poor little girl was just looking at her hands, looking quite embarrassed. I then pretended that my lunch was over and got up to spend the rest of my lunch at my desk. I couldn't see her behind a huge truck on display, but I can hear her grumble to her little daughter about who knows what. Whatever. I'll just pretend like I didn't hear anything so I don't mess up this sale for my coworker. Sometime later, nature called me and I got up to use the bathroom. I left my iPad on my seat so it will stay plugged in and put a notepad over it to try and cover it up somehow. My desk is a wide crescent shape with no drawers to keep my things safe, so this was the best I could do to somewhat hide it. I was in the restroom for no longer than 3 minutes, but when I got back, only my charger remained. My tablet and the digital pencil I was using to draw were gone. I looked over to the lady who had a large purse suspiciously in her lap now, instead of on the floor beside her chair like it was before. I was panicked because a lot of my work was on that tablet that I needed. I went to my sales manager and told him the situation. He told me he would take care of it, but to be patient for now. I went back to my desk full of anxiety and my stomach was doing backflips. My sales manager went to the desk where the entitled Karen was working out the deal for her car. They are far enough that I can hear their voices but not pinpoint what they're saying. But I did hear her eventually yell, "How dare you? I would never steal. Do you want to lose your sale?" I immediately got up and went behind the entitled Karen so my sales manager could see me, but she couldn't. He tells her that he understands, but my tablet just went missing, and he wants to make sure no one currently in the building has it. That's when I remembered the tracking application I have on my tablet. My tablet was connected to the dealer's Wi-Fi, so I pulled out my phone and pressed play sound on my tablet. Her purse started making a noise. She tried to play it off as if it's a ring phone, and my sales manager stared at her as if daring her to answer it. The thing is, with this feature on this app, if I keep pressing the button, it will keep making noise. I made my presence known and told her to give me back my tablet. That's when she stopped playing dumb and just said, "Just let my little girl have it. Her birthday's coming up and I can't afford a present for her since I'm getting this car." My sales manager said he was happy to cancel the deal so she can instead buy a gift for her child, and also that she better return this tablet or he's gonna call the police. She practically threw my tablet at me. Where it hit me in the gut, took the little girl from the waiting room and left. The poor thing looked at me with the most apologetic look on her face before leaving with her entitled, crazy Karen of a mother. How on earth can someone possibly do this to another human being and think they're gonna get away with it? I mean, how crazy can you possibly be? How did they think this was gonna go? Did they really think they were gonna get away with this? I mean, it couldn't have been more obvious that this lady wanted to get this tablet just so she could shove it in her daughter's face. I mean, how ridiculous ridiculous can you get? Good on the sales manager for sticking up for the coworker, and it's good to see that justice was served and they were able to get their tablet back. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking for a new phone from my relatives overseas? Okay, so hear me out. I sounded a bit spoiled, but trust me, I am not. I'm around 17 or 18 at the time, and I was in college and living with my parents. My parents are poor, so my relatives overseas are the ones providing for my education. Those people are sustaining my education, helping me with miscellaneous stuff in college by sending money, and honestly, I'm very thankful for all of that. One time, I was saving money to buy a phone or a PC because I really needed it for school. But just when I thought I had earned enough money to buy a phone, my parents will borrow some money and feed us with that money. Then after a few months, I will ask my mom to pay me back, but she will just reason her way out of it, saying, "You should not ask for the money back because that money ended up buying the food that we stuffed into our mouths." I let that slide and started earning again. I was already planning on working, so my cousin and I applied for jobs so that we could earn some money. I'm personally not very good at interviews, so my cousin ended up landing the job, but I didn't make it. A year later at this point, I'm in my second year of college, and I nearly saved up enough money that I was able to build my first PC that I can use for research and play some old games. Then my relatives abroad decided that they hand us down their old phones because they got new ones, so they sent them our way. Here is the issue. What was handed to me is a phone with a broken screen. My cousin gets a good functioning one, and it looks so spotless and brand new. I was a little envious, but my dad told me to not worry, son. I know a place where they can get it repaired for cheap. So I gave my dad the money to have it repaired. I held back and promised myself not to envy a single bit of what they have since, they got a brand new one while I spent money on mine just to make it usable. Throughout the years, they always hand me down a broken phone and my cousin gets the new phone. And I started to develop this habit of brushing off the envy, telling myself that what I have is better since I always work hard to get it. A few years later, I managed to finish college and landed a job that is better than my cousin's. I was able to earn good money, but I can't use the money to buy a phone yet since I need to pay rent and other bills. The company provided a work PC in my place in order to be able to work from home, and my current phone is already flickering and old. I was desperate enough to ask for a new phone since instead of planning and saving, I immediately sent my aunt a message saying, "Hey, it's been a while. I hope you're in good health. How's grandma?" With another follow-up message saying, "I've been meaning to ask you for a while. Can I ask for a new phone? Not the top of the line one, just a new usable phone." Right after an hour, she sent me a reply saying, "You are being ungrateful. At least appreciate what was given to you." I was a little shocked because I never said I didn't appreciate her. In fact, I was thankful that I managed to graduate and land a good job because of her help. So I replied saying that I'm not being ungrateful and I appreciate your efforts, that I'm able to finish my studies. I just wanted a functioning phone, not an expensive one, just the one I can use for my work. Now here I am thinking I could get her sympathy just because I said I need it for work. And I know I kind of sounded petty at this point because I'm desperate, but in the end, she never replied to the conversation, even though I know she saw it because her message icon showed up showing that she had seen it. So some months have passed by. I bought myself a phone without relying on my aunt. I did mention that the phone is essential to my work since I use it to keep the contacts of my boss, my coworkers, and other work-related stuffs. And I even managed to earn enough money to buy a fridge at my apartment. I ended up replacing my old PC, I bought a bed, and basically I was able to piece my life together slowly but surely. Sometime during the summer, my cousin visited my place and wanted me to back him up with his application since he wanted to apply for a job at my workplace. But I told him that the company requires an applicant to at least have a bachelor's degree or to at least have a 4-year course college graduation of some kind. And when I told him this, I was honestly very grateful for my studies since I had to work my way through college while he spent his years working and not going to college. I'm not saying he wasted his life away. It is just still good that I built all these working experiences while I was younger. He then takes out his phone, and it was the latest model of a phone you could possibly get at the time. So I asked him, "Hey, where did you get that phone?" And he said to me, "My aunt gave it to me." And for a moment, I was a little angry, but again, I just brushed it off. He gave me his number and told me to inform him if there was any position that would open up that he could apply for. When I made it to my parents' house, my parents prepared food and warmly welcomed me in. My dad said a broken phone arrived in the mail from my aunt and an envelope with money with a letter stating that this was your last phone. Don't ever ask for anything from me ever again. It was all direct directed towards me. I used the money to get the phone repaired and I gave it to my younger brother. The letter doesn't bother me that much because I am financially stable with my job. It does, however, feel very painful to have my relative turn her back on me just because of a simple phone. I wasn't asking for anything top of the line or anything brand new. I just wanted a phone that I could use, a phone that is not broken, and I really don't think that was much to ask. So am I the jerk for asking this of my relatives overseas? I don't think you're the jerk for asking for that. Clearly you're in a situation where you're relying on family overseas to help take care of you. But at the end of the day, you did learn quite a bit. I think you learned a valuable lesson that at the end of the day, if you want something, it's going to feel so much better if you work for it as opposed to if you just ask for it. Like sure, there's instant gratification in just being handed something new that you're like, hey, this is mine now. But when I've worked hard and saved up the money to buy that thing that I've been looking at for so long, it feels absolutely tremendously awesome to finally have it in my hands and know that I worked my butt off just to get it. And also, this gives you so much more independence away from your aunt. You clearly have true colors shining through with this lady. You don't need her. You can still have her in your life, obviously, but when it comes to money, you have a stable job. You can do whatever you like with your money. So good for this person for finally graduating away from hand-me-downs and broken phones, because now at this point in their life, they can afford so much more, independent of what anyone else tries to give them. My best friend used me for their own benefit and is now spreading lies about me at work, and I don't know what to do about it. I became best friends with my coworker about a year ago. Now, she doesn't drive or have a license and lives about 40 minutes from me in total. So to help out, I've been giving her rides for quite a while now, and I'll even take her to some stores if she asks me. Here's the problem though. I have never gotten a collective of maybe $60 in gas money. I drive her home 1 to 3 times each week, and it takes quite a hit on my gas tank. Since gas prices have gone up, it costs me about $35 to $40 just to fill it up, and I only ask for $15, which is way less than what I should be asking for from her when I give her rides. Keep in mind, I live right next to my job, so I know it's not my own personal driving trips taking a hit on my gas. It is from taking my friend everywhere. Anytime I have asked for gas money, she tells me she'll send it to me when she gets home, but I never get the money even if I send a request. Or she will only pay for it if I happen to go to the gas station with her. I literally have to hunt her down for the money that I deserve, despite her constantly complaining about Uber prices and how much better it is to drive with me. And money is not an issue with this lady. She will spend hundreds of dollars on herself when she goes shopping, and this is a frequent occurrence for her. Recently at work, we were in a break room, and I mentioned she hadn't sent me the $15 yet for this paycheck. I asked $15 every paycheck, which is bi-weekly. She denies it and says that she did. I pulled up Apple Pay to the last time she paid me, and I also pulled up the calendar to show what day that was showing and that it was on our last paycheck before the current one. I showed it to her and she still was denying even paying me. She kept trying to come up with reasons that made no sense just to not have to pay me. Eventually, I gave up and just dropped the topic and went on with our break. About 5 minutes later, she starts asking me what the amount is based off of, asking if it's based off of the amount of trips or whatever else I may be adding to the reason why she owes me $15. I explained my reasoning about gas money and everything else, and I broke it down systematically as to why I'm asking specifically for $15. I even explained that it would have to go up to $20 if I have to take her to more places than I usually do. And as I was about to explain to her that I feel like I have to hunt her down to get the money, she interrupts me and immediately gets defensive, saying, "It's not that I don't want to give you money, it's just that..." And then at that point, I cut her off and said, "I never said anything like that. It just feels like I have to hunt this money down just to get it from you." Then out of nowhere, her chair goes flying backwards, she slams on the table and storms out of the room. I go to one of my coworkers and tell her everything that's going on. I'm relatively close with her, and she has also had experience with giving this lady a ride home as well as trying to get gas money from her. So she completely understood where I'm coming from, and she gave me the solid advice of no longer giving her a ride home, saying that she needs to learn her lesson. Later on, my friend and I's shift ended, and I go to the break room to grab my stuff, and she's sitting at the table, I assume booking an Uber ride. As I was about to walk out, she calls my name and asked if I'm ever gonna say anything to her. I say, "No, you snapped on me, why would I want to talk to you?" She went on to deny ever snapping on me and instead called it walking out, which I denied. That's not walking out, that's snapping. She tried to bring the tears out, stating that I said something so hurtful to her. I told her I didn't want to do this, so I walked out. Now, instead of doing what you should do as a best friend and going to apologize for your faults and most likely giving gas money, instead she goes to take me off social media and completely ignore my existence for about a week. The first time she even says anything to me is when she gives me this really bad attitude over some boxes I needed to take care of at work. I eventually find out that a coworker no longer wants to work with her due to her constant complaining of me and constantly leaving the area to go talk about me to my manager. I also found out from my coworker that she was making up lies about me to make me seem like I was the bad guy. She tried saying that I was the one that hurt her, that I apparently snapped on her and walked out. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people that can just let things go when somebody's talking badly about me, because I don't like people knowing lies about me when it's not true. And I know she's told a lot more people than just those few coworkers that I know of. I already hate my job as it is, and basically losing who was supposed to be my best friend and is now making my job even worse. But I can't go anywhere else because no one else is hiring me despite the applications that I'm putting out. I have even had to keep myself from rage texting her everything that I feel in regards to what she has done. But I know it's not going to give me the satisfaction that I would hope it would give me. The sad part is that she still gets rides from other people, and I really doubt she's giving them any gas money despite what happened. Regardless, this is a nasty situation and I'm not really sure how to move forward. I think maybe you don't realize it, but that lady was not your friend. She was using you for rides. Any reasonable person would pitch in and give you the $15 for gas, especially if you're driving 40 plus minutes just to pick them up and take them to work. Like, if that's not them taking advantage of you, I don't know what is. If she's really gonna act like this after you've asked her repeatedly, hey, give me my money for gas, then you really don't need that in your life. That former best friend is very childish and very ignorant. And if I were you, I would get HR involved tomorrow. You do not have to go to work and have someone gossip about you and treat you poorly and have to sit there and take it. That is workplace harassment. You don't have to put up with that for a second. And the fact that she's spreading false information about you and making up lies behind your back is a serious offense. You have rights as a worker and you absolutely don't have to take that. But regardless of what happens, regardless of if any kind of punishment goes her way, your best bet is to move forward without her, because she was not a friend and she was only using you for rides. My wife is mad at me because I cried over a soccer match, but I didn't cry at our child being born. Yesterday, an important soccer match was played, which saw the team from my hometown victoriously involved, qualifying for the playoff final. Since we were out for dinner to celebrate my sister-in-law's birthday, in order to not be rude, I hid my mobile phone in the backpack under the table, and occasionally I would look at the results. I avoided cheering out loud out of respect for the whole table, but at the end of the game, the emotion was so big that I couldn't hold back the tears and I was moved. My wife immediately got mad and slapped me in the arm. She said that I didn't even cry when our child was born, and that I shouldn't be moved over a simple soccer game. I tried to explain to her that there's no point in comparing the two things, and that, of course, I love my family more than anything else. The reason why I cried is that I've been following this team since I was a kid, and my father and my grandfather used to take me to the stadium with them, so I was moved thinking that today they would be very proud of our team and of our city. In any case, my wife says that my behavior was very immature, and in her opinion, a family man should set a good example and not cry over these things. Also, I would like to take my children to the stadium to see the final, a historic event for our city that could be promoted to the highest category. But my wife absolutely doesn't want to because she says the kids are too small. Personally, I'm really annoyed by her attitude. I think there's nothing wrong with getting excited about these things, and that being moved by a match doesn't make me a bad family man. I think she should apologize and let me take the kids to the stadium. It would be a cool way of spending time with them, but I don't know how to talk to her about this without making her angry or making it worse. What should I do? I think honestly, both parties in this situation are not very good at communicating. On one hand, you are at a family dinner and you're celebrating someone's birthday. Now is not the time to have your phone out underneath the table watching the soccer match. I understand it's important. I understand that you really want to be there and root for your team, but in that very moment, it's time to focus on family. But on the other hand, the way the wife is acting to the husband is completely inappropriate too. Here's a fun fact. As a man, it's okay to cry. Men have the same type of emotions as women do. So it's very strange to me that this lady would then imply that he is a bad father and a bad family man because he cried over a soccer match. Obviously, Obviously, there's some very sentimental reasons why this would be important to him, and it blows my mind that she would make this kind of conclusion about her husband. Like, that's just completely unfair. I absolutely understand the wife's perspective, though, about wanting to be present in the moment at the dinner and spending time with family, but there's no reason to try and guilt trip your husband all because he's excited about something he's interested in. Like, we don't have the full story, so maybe this is like some really weird obsession that her husband has, and this was kind of the breaking point where he's sacrificing literally everything else in his life just to be a part of this soccer game, but we don't know that kind of information, so we can only speculate. But from what we have been told, I really do think the wife needs to apologize to her husband. And I don't think it's a problem to really bring your children to the stadium. At the end of the day, you and your wife really do need to agree on that before you try anything, so you probably won't get your way on that, but I think some honest communication in this situation will take you a really long way. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the Cream of the Crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.